Alrighty, let's do this. Another unscripted YouTube video. What's up? I'm Tim Warner, and I want to talk about generative AI. Just to set the stage, because I'm that kind of guy, what do we mean by generative AI? Well, AI, artificial intelligence, I would define as a piece of software that is trained in such a way to where the software can mimic factors of human intelligence. When we think about interpreting the world, you have your lifetime of experiences in your grape, and you've got hopefully all of your senses to take in novel new information, process it against your past training to make hopefully accurate and fruitful predictions or classifications. Very similar dynamic with artificial intelligence. Generative AI, when we think of generative, think of generation, think of creation. The cool thing about generative AI is that it's going to come back with novel new text, novel new image, audio. It's rapidly expanding, the field is, in terms of its outputs. But based on your natural language prompt, it can give you pretty much any information you want to know. Very similarly, although much more personalized than using a search engine. So what I want to do, if you don't mind, is get up on the old soapbox and rant a bit about why I think generative AI is a hugely important trend, not just in information technology, but really across all industry. I just learned this morning that my automobile has its own voice assistant, and it's now enabled for ChatGPT, and I'm actually pretty psyched to try that out. So that means that when I'm driving down the road, I can ask, without having to horse around with taking my eyes off the road, I can ask the AI literally anything. And depending upon what type of ChatGPT I'm dealing with, it can give me meaningful information back. So I think back, first of all, in the late 70s when I was in elementary school, and there was quite a bit of controversy in schools at the time, public schools in upstate New York, where I come from, in terms of, is it okay to let the kids use calculators in math class? And quite a few purists said, how can the kids learn to do calculation if they're relying upon this piece of machinery? Well, that's really another discussion for another time. More than anything else, I fault some of the math teachers I had for not making the math practical in our lives, which math is eminently practical. Whatever, that's another discussion. Long story short, it was a paradigm shift, this idea of the calculator as a tool, not as a substitute for thinking, but as an adjunct to thinking. Going ahead a little bit more, I remember in the 80s when robotics, industrial robotics specifically, became a big deal. And there's quite a bit of hubbub in upstate New York in terms of assembly line workers worrying that robots were going to put them out of a job. And they did. You see, that's an important truth. I think it's important to acknowledge that when these big industry technology-related paradigm shifts happen, people are going to lose their job. It becomes a challenge of I was going to say Darwinian evolution, but in terms of adaptation, there's a challenge for you to adapt or die, basically. So that was the late 80s, I think, of robotics. And in the 90s, of course, I remember in 1995 or so, when the World Wide Web exploded, and the first iteration of Wikipedia, the online encyclopedia, showed up, and I thought, wow, I no longer have to ride my bike or, when I was older, drive my car to the library, access these huge physical encyclopedia sets. I had an encyclopedia set of my own, thanks to my mom. She used to buy one book every week at the Wegmans grocery store until after 27 or 28, because some letters are split into 2 volumes, probably closer to 30 volumes. I eventually had the whole thing. And in my nostalgia wall behind me, I have one of those volumes left. But yeah, the internet was another case where there's this enormous groundbreaking paradigm shift. And of course, there's fear with that, fear of change, fear of being challenged to move beyond that which is familiar and comfortable, fear of losing one's livelihood. Fortunately, the internet and the World Wide Web came along at the perfect time for me because I was in university, so I was in absorption mode, so I was able to ride that wave to really great benefit up to now, at this very moment. All this to say is that based on my own experience in life, this generative AI, ChatGPT, OpenAI, Microsoft with their Azure Open AI service, I think we have a similar paradigm shift happening in the world. And so I've already seen some panic and suspicion and some fear. I've heard and read of people actually losing their jobs because of these intelligent chatbots. If you don't know, a company called OpenAI unveiled last fall of 2022, these large language AI models that are smarter than any chatbot we've ever seen in the past. Now, there's limitations to it that I want to go there, but I'm forcing myself to scope this video down appropriately into about 10 minutes. So let me just say that they're incredibly smart and useful chatbots. And what is the fear? Well, the fear, if you're a support desk person, is that a chatbot is going to put you out of a job. And again, as I was saying, I've witnessed that. I've seen that happen. So my advice, if you don't mind me offering some unsolicited advice, would be, again, to look at this for what it is, a new frontier in technology and really in the world. Face it, get smart on it. Particularly, I'm talking to you if you're an IT professional, if you're already in the industry. Get smart on this technology now, on the front end of things, so it becomes ingrained in your daily work. Ultimately, we have to remember the GIGO principle, G-I-G-O, garbage in, garbage out. These AIs, I know there's fears that they'll become sentient and self-aware. Might be overly simplistic, but I think to myself, if you pull the power plug, it's no longer sentient. In other words, we've got humans behind these AIs. And both OpenAI and Microsoft, I know for a fact, are heavily invested in what are called responsible AI concepts. And so I think that there's already good guardrails around this generative AI ecosystem. Because it's so new and because there are elements of it that are really complex, you don't have to, strictly speaking, look at GPT and ChatGPT as complex. I mean, you can load up the ChatGPT app on your phone, and I hope that you've done that. If you haven't, go ahead and do that. It's free. And start asking it questions and learning about the world from the AI to get a better feel for how it works functionally. And then in your job, you may find that it can be enormously helpful in terms of helping you condense and summarize large amounts of input. If you're a programmer, helping you overcome stumbling blocks. It's definitely, this ChatGPT generative AI stuff is definitely not a flash in the pan. It's not going away. So again, I think that in the name of future-proofing your career, whether you're in AI or not, or whether you're in IT or not, I should say, I suggest you get smart on generative AI sooner rather than later. Because I think of how long has it been since 1995, at least 20 years, that I've used the internet every day. And it's become woven into my professional and personal life such that if I'm with my daughter Zoe and we have a question that neither one of us can answer, we're going to go to the source. We're going to hit up Google or Bing or, to a degree and increasingly, ChatGPT, to dig down answers and evaluate those answers critically. That's something else. It's important, I think, for people to know that these AI systems are anything but perfect. You might have seen in the news notions of hallucination, where the AI will confidently give you bogus information. That's absolutely valid. It's true. And I chalk that up to early days development. We're still in the early days of this technology, so there's a lot of wrinkles that are yet to be ironed out. And I'm sure once the first batch of wrinkles are ironed out, another will emerge. Such is the nature of technology. So I hope that, in summary, if I'm doing summary after summary after summary, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, it would be, if possible, I would challenge you. See if you can step over any prejudice, fear, anxiety you might be having about generative AI and dip your toes in the water. Talk about it with people who know more about it than you do. Play with the technology. There's plenty of apps that are riding on top of these GPT models. Like I said, I just learned today that my voice assistant in my car, I can opt in to use ChatGPT. And you know that's exactly what I did. I'm really excited to try it out today, as a matter of fact. All right. Let's see, anything else I'm missing? I think that's pretty complete. Again, I'm at your disposal. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Until next time, thank you.